demon, face the vengeance of the Moon Knight.
Tsunami Studios.
Hello everyone and welcome back to The Moon Watch. I should put a graphic up there, but I'm probably not going to. So, my last Moon Knight video, I gave you guys an idea. Should I talk about the supporting characters or the villains? Some people said supporting characters, so that's what we're doing. And basically the idea for this video was I wanted to just give a little bit of insight. Not every little thing that happened to the characters, but I just kind of wanted to give you like a one-stop video, like here are some of these supporting characters in the Moon Knight roster, you know? Here are the people you could expect to see in the TV series. Here are some of the people that play a more prominent feature in the comic book. They're not in every issue or in every run, but these are the ones that people could look at and be like, oh yeah, that character, I read them in this book, they're in this issue, that kind of thing. They're the ones that recur the most. They're the supporting cast when it comes to the character of Mark Spector. I figured it was a good time to talk about these things because people are going to want to start to learn a little bit more about Moon Knight. Now, I've talked about the character a lot on this channel, but I never really went into the supporting cast. And you know, I'm not going to go into every aspect of their character because there's honestly not a lot to say. You know, like, they are very good characters, they are very well created, but, you know, there's not, like, specific moments that happen to them that, like, change the flow of the narrative for, like, Moon Knight or, like, break his world. There's one big event, it'll be the final character we talk about on this list that kind of, like, changes the status quo. But basically, this is like, hey, here's the character, here's their relationship to Mark Spector, to Moon Knight, here's kind of how I feel about them, how I think they are important, and that kind of stuff. That's basically what this is. It's a character 101. You're here, you're watching this video, you're going to just be hearing like, oh yeah, here we go. There's that character, there's that character, there's that character. I'll show you a picture of them, we'll talk about them briefly. It's a character 101. These are the characters that we could expect to see appearing in the Moon Knight television series. These are like the regular characters in the comic book that are not Mark Spector or Moon Knight. They are very prominent characters in that regard, so hopefully we see them in the Moon Knight series. I'm not sure where they are supposedly taking place. A lot of like indications might be hinting at it's going to be in Egypt and the Egyptian feel. If that's the case, maybe we won't see some of these characters in the setting, but if it's going to go to New York, probably we'll see a lot of them. So, the first character I want to talk about is Marlene Alvrun, and Marlene is, of course, the love interest to Mark Spector. That is how she's pretty much billed, that has been her character pretty much since her conception in the 80s, that is who Marlene has been. Now, she plays a prominent role in the story, not just being the love interest, but she's kind of the person who put Mark at, like, the steps of Khonshu, like placed him under the statue of Khonshu. She's kind of the one that put him in the place to be resurrected. So she's kind of essentially the part of the creation of Moon Knight, and because of that she feels like an obligation to stay with him in a sense. Like, their relationship, it's very complicated and very messy. I've always liked Marlene as a character. I think she's just really strong in this aspect of, like, you don't have to stay with the guy if he's hurting you. She's a clear example of that. In more modern storylines, you see that she doesn't always stay with Mark, and she's more willing to, like, become her own person and her individual. But, of course, like, she's the Lois Lane to his Superman, pretty much. That's how, pretty much who she is. There's a lot more to her than that, but as it stands, that's like pretty much what she has been throughout the majority of their time together. She's really interesting, really creative, and it's fine to serve that purpose. Sometimes you don't need to be more than that, like that emotional push, or that anchor for a character. And she does that job really well. She'll yell at him when he needs to be yelled at. She'll love him when he needs to be loved. But she is also willing to be her own individual, which is very cool to see. I like the idea that she's kind of the one that placed Mark at the foot of Khonshu. I think that's a really interesting character beat that just adds something extra to her, where she didn't just like stand by and let him die. She's like, if he's gonna die, well, maybe the gods can do something for him. That's kind of fun. That's an interesting dynamic to see. So that's what Marlene's role pretty much is, the love interest and sometimes the mother. We'll stay tuned to that in a bit here. I like Marlene. She's a very fun character, but as it stands, I don't think you would need her in a story. Like, she's one of those ones that I'm like, I get when she's involved, and I don't think every writer uses her to her full effect, but she's an important character, she's interesting, she's fun, she can be dynamic, and she's just a really important part of the lore, being like the Lois Lane, but also being the one that put Mark on the path to becoming Moon Knight. So that's pretty much Marlene in a nutshell. And that takes us to probably my favorite supporting character in Moon Knight's gallery. That is Jean-Paul Duchamp, or Frenchie, as we know him as in the story. So Frenchie is Mark's friend. He is Mark's best friend. He's the Jimmy Olsen, if we're going through this analogy. Jimmy Olsen's a bad comparison, though. I don't know why I went to it, but he's the best friend. You know, he's like the pilot who drives like the moon copter, or like, what do they call it? Angel Wing, I think in some stories. He flies the ship. You know, he drives the car sometimes. That's Frenchie. He's the pilot. He's the best friend who's going to be supporting you from the sidelines. That is who that character is. He's very charismatic, very fun, very charming. You know, he's like that classic he's that classic suave Frenchman, which is fun. Some people like that, some people might not, but he's also somebody who was like a part of like all like the mercenary teams that Mark was a part of, so they have a long history together. He's kind of connected to the origin story, you know, he was there with the stuff with Bushman and all that, but they don't actually like, you know, interact to help him become Moon Knight. He was just part of there, and he's like, oh, we did some bad stuff, I guess I can help you be a vigilante and a superhero now. That's kind of his place in the world. He's very fun. I like him a lot. He just has that charming thing where, you know, Mark's kind of like serious and dry, and then Frenchie's just like, yeah, let's have fun, man. You know, like that's the kind of relationship they have. Frenchie himself, a very cool character. Now there's a big storyline involving Frenchie. I say big, it's not that big, but there's a storyline that one of the reasons that Jean-Paul stayed with Mark throughout the entire their entire run is pretty much because he was in love with Mark, which I understand, like, from like a narrative why that's something that could stick with people. I don't think we would see that in the TV series. As it currently stands, I can't remember if he is still with him, but there's a character called Rob Silverman in the Moon Knight comics who was Frenchie's partner at the time. If they are still together, I can't remember. I think they are. If they're not, then it's still something else that adds to that character, making him one of like these openly gay characters in a world like this. That's something we could definitely see happening on the series if we ever got there. Frenchie is one. I think out of anybody on this list, we are probably going to see Frenchie in the capacity of that show. I think that'd be fun. He's a great character, very charming, very debonair, just somebody that a lot of people will gravitate to as being a fun character. So he's the best friend, the lovable goofball who flies the ships. You know, he's just that fun, cool guy that a lot of people will gravitate towards. And if we do go to New York in that TV series, which I hope we do, we'll probably get a couple people like this. One of them being Crawley. Now, Bertrand Crawley is the homeless man who kind of works for Jake Lockley, like the eyes and ears of the criminal underworld. He's just a really fun character. Like I said, he's just a homeless guy that goes around talking like he's a Shakespearean actor. He's got a flair for the dramatic, just a great attitude, a great sense about him. He's just one of those, you know, like over-the-top eccentrics that everybody can understand and know somebody like him. I think he's just really fun, really cool. When he's used to his right effect, he adds that extra certain something to a Moon Knight story. You know, he's not gonna like explicitly call out Mark, but he's gonna be like, okay, if that's what you think should happen, then who am I to stop you? He's one of those types of people, and he's very fun. The homeless angle, it's cute. Like it doesn't go for like that gut punch of like being the homeless person, but it necessarily doesn't have to do that. So there's nothing wrong about that. Crawley is still a great, fantastic character, and there's something really cool about him. You know, one of the things too I haven't really pointed out, but I said at the beginning of the episode here, there's not like a specific story like I could direct you for any of these people. Like, especially, it's weird, especially in terms of like Marlene. There's like one at the end I'm gonna be like, that's probably the one you should read if you want to get like a real sense of Marlene. But it's not even a Marlene story, so it's just weird that like these characters are prominent and featured, you know, like the original run, in other people's runs, like the Lemire run, they all get played in here, but they're not really like characters who have their story that Moon Knight deals with, you know? They're not like a Harry Osborn or like a J. Jonah Jameson. They're not any of those kind of people. They're just like, we're here to support this guy. That's all we are. And there's nothing wrong with that. I still think they're really good characters, but it's just something to note. Another character here is Gina Landers. Now, Gina is a lady that works at a diner. She has her own diner. It's Gina's Diner, which is kind of like a big set piece in a lot of like contemporary Moon Knight stories. It's a fun place to go, you know, if you want to do like one of those scenes where everybody meets at a diner and they all talk together. You go down to Gina's. It's got its own place. It's got its own vibe. She's just a fun, sassy lady, you know, she'll speak her mind, she'll tell you how it is. That's the kind of person she is, you know. She has had two sons before in the comics, you know, Ricky and Raymond. And, you know, Raymond has occasionally driven or, like, piloted the planes for Moon Knight when him and Frenchie were on the outs, but I don't know if we'd go that route. It's a great angle to play into, and I think we could potentially see it in the series. But Gena's a lot like Crawley in this aspect. Like, they're really good recurring. They're not like as prominently featured as people like Frenchie or Marlene. You know, they just have like those impactful moments. They're cool. They have their audience. Gena's diner itself could be its own character. Her two sons could be their own characters too, to play up into that mythos. That could be fun to see. But there's not a lot to explore and go down in that rabbit hole, which is fun. You know, like, there's nothing over the top to Gena. You know, sometimes she's like the eyes and ears who operates out of the diner. Some shady people come in. She'll give information to Jake or Mark. You know, she'll help Crawley out occasionally. She's got a relationship with Marlene. You know, like basic stuff like that. She's like Crawley, and it's like the eyes and ears of the streets, pretty much. That's who that character is. There's nothing else to it. Like, you don't have to have that much else going on for her, but it's just a fun character to throw in there sometimes. Great to see her recurring. You know, all four of these characters do appear heavily in a lot of different runs. Like the original run, they're all featured heavily in more contemporary runs, like the Chuck Houston run, which a lot of people like. You know, in the Lemire run, like I said, they are all featured to their extent. Like, they are those characters. They don't have individual moments. Like, you can't go like that issue, like issue 25 of this run is where Crawley had his big story. They're still prominently featured. They still have enough story in them where you could tell interesting things inside like a television series or in more comic books. They're just really fun characters. And those are pretty much it. Like, you could say Detective Flint is one, but I don't know. He's not like a main character. It didn't matter to me. Or like Samuel's the butler. Like, yeah, you get it. And the one I wanted to end on, which I think was a very important one, especially in the last run of the comic book, that is Dietrich Alvaron. And now Dietrich is the daughter of Marlene and Mark. Now, there's a lot of complicated history as to kind of who was the father of Dietrich at the beginning. The idea is that it was like Jake Lockley took over, he spent a night with Marlene, and suddenly she had a kid. Well, not suddenly, we know how kids happen. But that's about it. Like, Dietrich is just like, she's really smart and capable for a young child in this world. She's very much like, I'm going to be like my dad. I want to be a superhero. I want to make sure people are good. She's very smart and just creative, a very compelling character that I hope we see more of. I'd love to explore more into that world of Dietrich. Like, I can't confirm this. I can't confirm this, so take this with a grain of salt as something. I wouldn't be surprised if Dietrich was introduced into the comic books because somebody at Marvel said, if we make a Moon Knight TV series, our actor for Mark is going to outgrow the role and we're going to want a replacement for them. So we get another Moon Knight in there, a young girl who can potentially become that character later on. That doesn't surprise me. I like Dietrich. She's funny, she's cool, she's interesting, she's a unique character onto herself. She doesn't act like the typical child. She's more like, well, you're my dad, right? I always thought you were my uncle, but you're my dad. Okay, let's just get on with that then. You know, she's funny and cool. She's got a really interesting way about her, which could be a really fun area to explore in different stories. We just haven't seen them yet. I hope we see it eventually though, because she's just really interesting. That's pretty much it. There's no major like supporting cast aside from these people. Marlene, the love interest, Frenchie, the best friend, Crawley and Gena, the eyes and ears, the people that work the streets, and Dietrich, the daughter. That's pretty much all you need to know. Like, there's nothing really special or particular about these characters. They play well into their stories with Moon Knight, and that's all they need to do. They're not going to be like explored in like Daredevil or Luke Cage or anything. There's particular for Moon Knight. That is fine. That is where they should stay. So I think that's a really cool thing to see. We have a lot of fun with these characters, and we're probably going to be seeing all of them in some capacity appearing on the show, which could be a really fun thing to explore, and I can't wait to see what that's going to look like. So that is your Moon Knight supporting cast 101. There you have it. There's all the characters. You can love them, you can hate them, just feel strongly towards them in any regards to the words, and that is still something to appreciate, that Moon Knight has his own supporting cast like this. That's pretty cool. Not every hero has it. Some heroes should, some of them need it. Moon Knight, does he need it? Maybe not, but they're there and they're cool and they're fun. So that is the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, all that good stuff, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Have fun, stay safe, good luck. And don't forget, the next one will be all about the villains.